and welcome back, Descendants. Today I have probably the most fun build that I have made yet with Ultimate VIESSA. The good part about this build is that it does work with regular VIESSA. You don't need Ultimate VIESSA for this. Usually the only real difference between Ultimates and regular Descendants is that they have Ultimate mods. One of the Ultimate mods I will build a build on, and then the other one is actually just one of her base mods that makes her really good. First, we'll look at base abilities, so I can explain to you my thought process in building the build. The first ability is Ice Shackles. Ice Shackle, or Ice Spheres. These Ice Spheres are created whenever you inflict Ice Shackle on an enemy. They are one-use blast objects. They sport a skill power modifier of 259.3. I don't understand the reasoning in these arbitrary decimal points, to be honest with you. The difference between 259 and 259.3 can't mean anything as far as the game is concerned. Very confused as to how they came up with this skill power modifier. You can have a maximum of 3 out with no mods, and whenever you inflict a skill on an enemy, you get spheres. That's her passive. Her first ability, Frost Shards, is just a straight beam, very straightforward attack. It inflicts a certain level of Ice Shackle. Ice Shackle increase amount, level 1, and on direct hit it is level 2, and on the surrounding enemies it is level 1. The second ability is Frost Road. It sort of leaves a puddle on the ground, kind of similar to Valby's attack. It increases your movement speed and adds shield recovery to your Descendant. So this is very good, and whenever you're building your Descendant and you want to add health or shields, you should keep in mind that you can recharge shields with Frost Road. In addition, it inflicts level 2 Ice Shackle whenever an enemy attacks it. Then we get into Ice Wave, sporting a large skill power modifier of 1149, level 2 Ice Shackle, straightforward. Then her ultimate is called Blizzard. There is a 6-second original duration, and every 2 seconds is a damage interval. The damage intervals do a 1435 skill power modifier, and then after that they explode for 1800 skill power modifier. So for 6 seconds, 1, 2, 3, boom. So 4 total damage ticks. Why is this important? This is important because every 2 seconds you can extend the duration, gives you another tick. So 1, 2, 3, and then an explosion. This will be important later in the build. So that is VIESSA's base abilities. I have made 2 builds, and I'll go into why I didn't choose the other modules and why they need buffs. So I have Absolute Zero and Cold-Bloodedness. I specifically chose these 2 because one is better for mob clearing and one is better for boss damage. And you can obtain both with the same slots inside of your Descendant, and it'll be really cracked depending on what you want to do. So for the mob one, I have Absolute Zero. Why did I pick Absolute Zero? So there are 6 total choosable modules for VIESSA. Glacial Cloud. This turns Blizzard into a sort of grenade type ability. I found it not improving the build enough to use, so I did not make a build on this. Hypothermia improves Ice Shackle with something called Ice Needle, which increases the continuous damage over time of Ice Needle, but not enough to warrant using a module because we have better options. Cold Snap Watch is more of a CC type ability, and I also found it lacking compared to the other modules. Cold-Bloodedness is the boss damage version of the build that I chose, and it's just simply because it increases your cooldown and increases your skill damage whenever you acquire certain things, which makes your skills do more damage. I had tried Cold Cohesion, however, this was sorely lacking compared to Absolute Zero, and I will explain why. So this gives you 5 spheres, and Absolute Zero doesn't give you any more spheres. For FYI, it says the number of ice spheres increases by 5. This is a translation issue, and it just makes the number of spheres 5. So it only increases it by 2, first of all. Second of all, it does not increase the damage of the ice spheres. It just gives you 2 more of them. So this increases your damage by 2 out of 5, seemingly. However, this is strictly worse than Absolute Zero, and I'll explain why. First, the base ability of Ice Sphere is tech, and the base ability of Blizzard is also tech. This is important. Absolute Zero turns all of your abilities into singular type damage. This is important because whenever you get a reactor with singular type bonuses on it, it improves all of your skills up across the board. In addition, or it increases the skill power modifier on your ice spheres by 100%, which is a very large margin of damage. Already, the damage that you're losing by losing 2 spheres is made up for in gaining 100 skill power times 3. It's even worse than that because the other one would be better because you get 5 of them. However, there's a problem here. So I have 3 spheres and each one deploys, one at a time. The reason this is important is because if your cooldown is low enough, you will constantly have 3 spheres. So whether you have 3 or whether you have 5 doesn't actually matter. The only thing that does matter is the skill power modifier. So you change the 259 to a 350, and you automatically just do more damage straight off the bat just from that alone, because you constantly will have the ice spheres up with enough cooldown. And I'll explain that now. So we have 3 ice spheres, and my cooldown is low enough to where I can do it again. Now there is a small delay, but the small delay isn't warranting an entire module with an entire setup to sacrifice a whole bunch. So, and this is the mob build. So Absolute Zero increases the skill power modifier of all skills across the board. That's why Absolute Zero is in the running for one of the best modules. So we'll start with the Absolute Zero build, and if you notice, there is no attack module on this build. Why? An attack module will give me about 80%, 75 to 85, depending on the module I pick, will give me 85% skill power modifier. The majority of my damage will come from 2 skills. One, Blizzard, of a modifier of 1500 and a modifier of nearly 2000. Then the other one has a modifier of nearly 1000. 80% on 1000 is really not a lot at all. That is 8% damage for the 1000 and then 4% damage on the 2000. This gives you an average damage of around 5% extra damage for what you're performing. 5% extra damage is not worth any of these modules for me. So Spear and Shield alone gives me more damage than an attack modifier. Also a little bit of defense for a little bit of damage mitigation. Then I have a crit build here with maximum cooldown. And fully realized, the build does this. So you're not even really using your gun because you're too busy activating your abilities. Hence the MP collector, you're going to run out of MP. It's just going to happen. Now you can change this up a little bit. This is the slots in case you want to duplicate the build. The reason this one is empty is because I have the option to switch it up every now and then, which I can max out MP collector now. I couldn't before, but now I'm out of Kyber. I only have 21,000 Kyber. I'll give you a 12% at a 17% chance when it's fully leveled up. Every 10 enemies, you get 20% of your MP back, roughly. So the things you could switch out if you wanted to is Dangerous Ambush. I have Dangerous Ambush on because it's kind of difficult sometimes whenever you have a boss or a commander with a ton of hit points, and whenever they're not targeting you, this lets you put the hurt on them. However, you could replace it with any Xantic module, including an attack mod if you really wanted. Also, all of the enemies that you defeat have debuffs on them, so you can also go with Decimator, but Decimator only has a skill power modifier of plus 2%. Technique manual is Doodoo Butter. MP conversion, cooldown. I just wanted to stack as many cooldown mods on the build as possible, and I settled on Nimble Fingers MP conversion. And I basically have a choice here between expanding the range of a skill, increasing the duration of a skill, or increasing the cooldown of a skill. I've chosen the skill expansion because this is a mobbing build on purpose. At the end of the video, there will be a small clip of me getting to wave 20. There is someone else in the fire team, but I did manage to do 1.2 billion damage inside of the 20 waves. We failed on the last wave, very sad. But I'll go ahead and speed that up at the end. If you want to watch it, just go to the end and you can either watch it in full speed or knock it down, it's like 30 minutes. So that's a long time. So I have focus on chill because of the chill power. So if I really wanted to take off dangerous ambush, I could put on singular specialist, but that would be decreasing my 25% damage for 4% damage, which is really not worth it. I could put focus on singular on this build just for the 6% cooldown, but I decided not to do that. And then I stacked crit because crit is very important. You could also remove this for a critical hit rate, and that would increase the amount of damage you do. It would be more than an attack module, but not as much as dangerous ambush on an average basis, especially in a defense or something, because the monsters aren't targeting you, they're targeting the defense sometimes. MP collector for obvious reasons, because I ran out of MP like 97 times when I was doing this build first. Spear and shield because I want the extra skill power, and it's pretty much straightforward there. You get a massive range with maximize range and skill expansion. So this is a huge radius, and you can see the explosion radius is bigger. So the continuous damage is 12 meters, and then the explosion radius is 17.5 meters, which is very useful inside of a defense or anything with a ton of mobs in there. And that was the first build. We'll go over the second build. This is the boss damage build, and it replaces Frost Road with a cold-bloodedness skill. What this does is it gives me a 5% damage boost. I don't really care too much about the 5% damage boost, but I do care about the MP cost decrease and the cooldown reduction rate, because it is crazy. It makes your cooldowns so fast you can double stack your ultimates. I could make this go a little bit faster, but actually I want the duration more than... And then wait, there's more. And it basically makes this cooldown not even exist, decreasing the cost. You don't need a gun with this build, which is why I want to say I have 2 hand cannons. So the first hand cannon perforator I have been leveling up. I really like the perforator, it feels good, and I just like the weapon. I had to settle on a reactor eventually, so I got a Nezestra's Devotion reactor, so that's why I have Nezestra's Devotion equipped. I don't plan to use the gun, it's just on my build. This is essentially just for mounting purposes on my reactor, in case anyone's wondering why I have 2 hand cannons. Good enough is good enough for me, and at the end of the day, if it's good enough, it's good enough. I have chill, tech, and then a chill skill power boost ratio bonus as goals. If I could choose, I would either want tech, where the fusion is, or additional attack against Colossus, because this is the boss damage build. Either one's fine, they're very comparable to each other. The additional attack versus Colossi will do more damage against the Colossi than the tech one will, but the tech one will do more damage against everything that's not a Colossi. That being said, this is the internet, so I have to run a second build, one that throws all utility and usefulness out the window, and that one is this build. If I really wanted to take this a little bit farther, I would take the skill insight on the left, on the right that I have not slotted in an area, and I would slot in an Almadine socket, so I could put in skill insight and ambush assassin on here, and that would create the most damage that I could. I'm gonna do the pyromancer twice, one with the reckless abandoned, this is the internet build, and then the other one will be with a build that I actually enjoy running, and then the third build will be the defense video. Go kill us a pyromancer. Also guys, keep in mind this is a VIESSA build, not a Thunder Cage build or a Afterglow build. It might take a little longer than you're used to seeing if you've watched a lot of VIESSA things, because they all melt the boss in 30 seconds with not VIESSA. Usually the fight starts with the Pyromancer at the beginning. Not bad. I probably could have done that a little faster, but I don't want to sit here and run it 1,000 times and give you the best time. But like I said, this is a VIESSA video, not a Thunder Cage video, so it's just gonna take longer than 30 seconds. VIESSA isn't LEPIC. And that brings my stats to here. I could squeeze about 20% more damage out of this build if I really tried, although I don't really need to because I'm kind of happy with the build. I'll go ahead and just kill this Pyromancer real quick for you. It shouldn't take but a couple minutes. So that wasn't a great run. It was 2 minutes and 21 seconds. I've done it in a minute and 45 before, but I'm not going to sit here and try to get the most optimal video footage for the video. So this is the bossing build. If you read VIESSA's base skill, her skill does 1500 skill power every 2 seconds, and then 2000 skill power at the end of the 6 seconds. So it takes 6 seconds to do 6500 skill power on VIESSA. If you go to LEPIC, it's about 2,500 skill power every 1.5 seconds, because you can just shoot this over and over again if you build him correctly. You get 10,000 skill power out of 5 seconds, and then each one does damage over time, doubling that to about 20. So you get about 20,000 skill power out of LEPIC versus the 6,000 skill power out of VIESSA. You kind of make up for this with modules and stuff on VIESSA, but that's why you get 1 minute and 40 out of VIESSA and you're going to get 20 seconds out of LEPIC. Now, like I said, you could probably get that down to about 1 minute and 15 if you really spent a lot of time grinding for the perfect reactor. So theoretically, you could work the system with Secret Garden. So you'd be able to knock that down to like maybe 55 seconds. You could get a really cracked VIESSA if you got the perfect reactor, a fully leveled up Secret Garden. You have to use the Slayer set if you want all of that, and that's about it. You would need chill skill power boost ratio. However, if you get a tech skill power boost ratio bonus on it, it will do a little bit more damage than the chill skill power boost ratio, because the chill skill power boost ratio is already at 1. So your returns are just higher on tech skill power, because you'd be multiplying the 1 versus multiplying the 0.2. I went over this in the Kyle build, if what I just said confused you. If you're interested in the mobbing build, after this, there's a sped up version of, I think, wave 6 to 20. And if you're a controller player, your thumbs might hurt a little if you're not used to fast movements. I play on controller, so if you're wondering why I'm turning so slowly in the video, it's because I'm on controller and I like playing the way I like to play. So there's that. Either way, I will be doing another Descendant. The next Descendant I'm going to leave up to my community to vote on. However, when Ultimate Valby or Luna comes out, I will be focusing on one of them. I'm not sure which one. I will probably focus on the one that's less hype, because not everyone and their mother is doing it. And then after I do that build, I'll work on what my community has voted on, unless my community votes on Ultimate Valby or Luna instead, and then that's just the one I'm going to end up doing. So if you're interested in voting, go into my Discord. I don't have it up yet, but I will after I post this video. Obviously, if you have improvements on the build, let me know. Like I said, you can get a little bit more damage with an attack module on, but I would have to sacrifice resources or cooldown or something else on the build. I'm just not willing to sacrifice anything on the build for 4 to 8% damage boost. I don't care that much about that boost to sacrifice something. If I cared that much about that boost, I'd have a better reactor. But like I said, you'll probably get a run down to 50 seconds with a build that's very similar to this. Cold-bloodedness, super dope, and then Absolute Zero, super underrated. If you do the Absolute Zero build, which I did not show you, Zero build, you're going to want this kind of reactor with a chill skill power boost ratio and a singular power boost ratio. I don't know why the game wants to keep on giving me Nizestra's Devotion mounting instead of Perforator mounting, but it is what it is. And as you can see, all of the skills that I have are 27,000 instead of 24,000 because of the singular skill power boost ratio bonus and the singular skill power boost ratio inheritance on the reactor. Hope you guys liked the video. Sorry I couldn't farm for more reactors. It takes hours to farm for reactors. I don't know what happened to the reactor's drop rate. I guess it just dropped. Like I said, if you have any improvements on the build, I'd be happy to hear them. If you think I was wrong about any of the other mods, let me know and I'll take a second look. However, I don't think I can come up with a build that's either better than Cold-Bloodedness or more fun than Absolute Zero. Absolute Zero is the most fun I've had in this game. The defense video will be after this. Y'all have a sick day. Peace out.